Scandal in Oklahoma, presented by Shauna Oliver. Introduction to the Choctaw Tribe. The stories about minor inheritance and land and oil rights takes place in 1921 through 1923. The location is about 2 miles outside of Smithville, Oklahoma. Let's begin. Halito, which is Choctaw for hello. Scandal in Oklahoma is written by Gertrude S. Bonin. It is a historical short story about a Choctaw girl who had inherited valuable oil-rich land and how she lost them. Little Letsie was only 7 years old, owned oil-rich land in McCurtain County. She lived with her old grandmother in a small shack back in the hills about 2 miles from Smithville. They lived in dire poverty, without proper food or clothing, and were surrounded by filth and dirt. Letsie inherited the lands from her mother. 20 acres of this land was valuable oil property. Other land she had inherited were sold by her uncle, Noel Samuel, for about $2,000. This money was placed in the First National Bank of Idabel and was controlled by the county judge, who allowed $10 a month for the support of Letsie. After the 20 acres was discovered to have oil, Noel Samuel was induced to resign through a combination of various tactics, force, persuasion, and was offered a reward which he never got. July 1921, Mr. Jordan Whiteman, who was the owner of the First National Bank of Idabel, was appointed Letsie's guardian. 1923, Letsie and her grandmother were living in semi-starving conditions. Once a week, the old grandmother walked to Smithville to buy food on the monthly credit of $10 allowed to them by Mr. Whiteman at Blake's store. After shopping, the grandmother would have to hire a driver to take her home. During this period from 1921 to 1923, the guardian did nothing to make them more comfortable or to educate Letsie. In the fall of 1922, Mr. Whiteman attempted to sell 10 acres of Letsie's oil-rich land, which was producing at the time. Thankfully, this attempt was defeated and resulted in a monthly store credit to be increased to $15. April 1923, Letsie and her grandmother came to town, carrying their clothes in flour sacks. Letsie was dirty and covered in vermin. She was sick, emaciated, and only weighed about 47 pounds. A medical examination showed she was undernourished and poisoned by malaria. After 5 weeks of medical treatment and proper nourishment, Letsie gained 11 pounds. Her health improved, and she was placed by an employee of the Indian Services in Wheelock Academy, an Indian school. Mr. Whiteman, fearing the loss of control over his ward, demanded the following day Letsie be returned to the custody of her legal guardian. A month later, on August 14th, Letsie's grandmother learned of her granddaughter's passing. The following day, on August 15th, Letsie's body was returned, and with her return came parties of grafters. Grafters are people who are dishonest and use questionable ways for the acquisition of such gains as money or oil-rich land. Greed for the little girl's land made them like beasts surrounding their prey. Pictured is Gertrude S. Bonnen. The following quote shares Gertrude's passion for advocacy for Native Americans. The Indian race is starving not only physically, but mentally and morally. It is a dire tragedy. Indians are kept ignorant and incompetent to cope with the world's trained workers because they are not sufficiently educated in the government schools. A little bit about Gertrude S. Bonnen. She used the pen name of Zetkala Shaw when she wrote short stories about reservation life. She also taught at Carlisle Indian School. Bonnen was born to a Native American mother and white father in February 1876. By 1916, Bonnen was elected secretary of the Society of American Indians, and not long after that, she and her husband moved to Washington, D.C. By 1926, following the disbanding of the Society of American Indians, the Bonnens formed the National Council of American Indians. Bonnen frequently lectured across the United States, often appearing in native dress to dramatize her message. She remained active in the reform movement throughout the 1930s. She continued lobbying Congress, particularly on the behalf of the Sioux and the Utes. Bonnen was a granddaughter of Sitting Bull. After teaching at Carlisle, she enrolled in the New England Conservatory of Music in Boston to study violin. In 1902, she met and married fellow Sioux Raymond Bonnen. In 1938, Bonnen was laid to rest in Arlington National Cemetery. Ironically, the burial honor was not to her great contributions to the United States, but because of her husband's position as an Army captain. On this slide, as you can see, the Choctaw Nation has a lot of history. The one part that I want you to take note of is 1837. We know that was the Trail of Tears. And in the following year, the Choctaw learn about the Irish famine. And with great empathy, Choctaw individuals made a donation of $170 to the General Irish Relief Committee. In today's money, that would be about $5,000. The tribal location for the Choctaw tribe is in Durant, Oklahoma. In this slide, we see the current statistics for Durant, Oklahoma. A few things I wanted just to point out is in this area, individuals are below poverty at 28.8%. That's 13% higher than the national average. Grandparents raising grandchildren are at 66.7%, almost double of the national average. And higher education is more than 150% below the national average. This slide shows the Choctaw businesses. Currently, they own 2 Chili restaurants in Oklahoma. They have 16 Choctaw travel plazas for food and fuel. The Choctaw Country Market is a full-service grocery store and gas station. The Choctaw Defense Services is a tribally owned contractor for IT needs. The Choctaw Staffing Solution was established in 2011 and continues to grow in core competencies with a focus on professional services in the medical, dental, and behavioral health fields. The Choctaw Print Services provides a variety of graphic communications, and they also have 18 Choctaw casinos for gaming, entertainment, and hospitality needs. Yokoki. Thank you so much for watching my presentation.